It's about that time.
Stoned on Sports.
Happy Halloween, everybody, and welcome to Stoned on Sports Fantasy Football. As you can see, I'm the nature boy himself, Ric Flair. Got the awesome co-host Kyle here with me today. And guess what? We're talking about starts and sits. We're here in week 8, I think. Yeah, week 8, week 9.
Week 9 this week.
Is it week 9?
Yeah, it starts here in about an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, that game might be kind of interesting. The Texans, they're down some receivers, so we'll see how things turn out with them.
Yeah, for sure. You see Matt's dressed up. I'm not, because he didn't share with me that he was dressing up. I would have. I got shit here I could have done. Thanks for including me. Limousine riding, Rolex wearing.
That's it. Kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun.
Yep, heck yeah. Thanks for joining Dubo, Blue Yays, Captain Spock. Really appreciate it, guys. So we got starts and sits for you as usual on Thursday. We got 5 guys that we want you to consider starting and 5 that you should probably think twice about. Okay. Some of them you might not have a choice. It's the way it goes, but temper your expectations.
Yes.
First guy we got here is wide receiver Chris Olave with the Saints. You know, he's been one of the more frustrating wide receivers this year, thanks to, an inconsistent stat line, a hurt quarterback, and it really makes it difficult to know when and where to start him. He finally woke up last weekend, putting up 18.7 points in PPR, 8 receptions on a whopping 14 targets, over 100 yards, placing him as wide receiver 12 in week 8, and he's wide receiver 45 on the season. He has scored just 12.8 points in 4 out of 7 games this season, so it was a welcome sight last week for sure. And I was impressed too, because it was against a Chargers squad that is the stingiest in football against wide receivers. Among the 43 wide receivers with 40-plus targets, Olave is tied for 6th with PFF's receiving grade. He's 7th in receiving rate, or the percentage of his targets caught. He's almost at 74%, pretty good. 12th in yards per route run. He's tied for 4th in contested catch rate and middle of the pack in ADOT at 10.8. Once he gets his quarterback back, that should rise a bit. His yak needs some work there. He's in bottom 10 in yards after the catch per reception. And I see part of the reason he has forced 0 flipping missed tackles this year. Then week 9, he's got a Panthers defense that's allowed the 10th most points per game to wide receivers and the 4th most points per game to opposing perimeter receivers, where Olave lines up over 71% of the time, according to PFF. And the big news is Derek Carr is expected back this week. I think that's huge. I think there's no reason to believe that Olave can't be real productive this weekend and finish inside the top 15 at his position for the first time since week 3.
Yeah, I'm looking for big things out of Olave. Carr is going to make the big difference. Obviously.
Definitely.
Spencer Rattler, he's not so good so far. So we got a question in the chat from Epic Fail, a couple of them. First one, and we'll start there. Joe Flacco or Stroud tonight?
Stroud's just probably a quarterback that you should sit this week, missing some weapons, tough defense, even though the Jets have been beatable in some ways as well. I like Flacco.
I agree wholeheartedly. Just the Texans' path to victory tonight lies on the ground.
Definitely.
Through Joe Mixon. I mean, you've got Tank Dell and a whole bunch of nothing. And that brings us to his second point. Sit 1, half PPR, JSN, Waddle, Tillman, or Tank Dell.
Ooh, God. That's tough. Off the top of my head this week, I'm thinking JSN. I don't remember who Seattle plays.
Yeah, for me, I'm sitting Tank Dell.
Okay.
I know he's a good receiver, right? And I know his usage this year is different than last year. Last year, he's used more down the field. This year, he's being used closer to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
But going up against that Jets secondary, when it's him and John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson and maybe Robert Woods, no, Tank Dell's going to be getting the attention. And like I said, the path to victory for the Texans tonight lies on the ground. If I have Joe Mixon, I'm a happy camper. I'm firing his ass up with confidence. But Tank Dell, no. That's an easy call for me.
Just seen that comment in there about the Diddy party. That's good stuff. Yes, definitely Ric Flair there. Loud boy. Who else we got in there? George Pace Menard. Either one. Sorry. Welcome to the show. Trade Ridley for Dowdle or Jonathan Brooks. Desperately needs some RB help. Ugh.
Yeah. If I'm trading Ridley, Jonathan Brooks is going to be a no for me. Dude hasn't even stepped, he's done nothing so far, right? Yeah. He's getting ramped up at practice, but he's still been limited. Rico Dowdle, to me, has been, kind of shitty, but he gets the bulk of the work out of that backfield.
Yeah. It's just, not a good backfield.
It's not.
Mr. Pick up Dalvin Cook and drop him a week later.
Hey, I mean, it was worth a shot to see what happened.
Yeah. I don't think you didn't start him, did you? You just grabbed him.
No, it was just a pick up and we'll see what's up. And there wasn't shit up.
That's true. All right. Next guy, Sam Darnold, has been average or better fantasy quarterback all but 1 week this season. I think the Vikings are due for a bounce back this week after 2 straight losses. Plus their opponent this week, the Colts, their defense is mediocre at best. What do you think, Matt?
You know what, Kyle? I think I've sat here on this show with you for over a year listening to you say my name when last year I spent more money on spilt liquor in bars from one side of this world to the other than you made. You're talking to the Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, kiss stealing, woo, wheeling dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun. And I'm having a hard time holding these Jordans down, brother. I tell you what, there's only one real world's champion, Ric Flair.
Nice.
Now on to Sam Darnold. Look, the Vikings, they've lost 2 straight, but it's not been because of him. Over his past 2 games, he's 40 of 52 for 499 yards, 3 touchdowns, just 1 pick. And he's even picked up 45 yards on the ground. He's the QB 12 the last 2 weeks, QB 13 on the season in points per game at just under 17.5. But he only has 2 games below that average, and he's given you 3 games over 20 points. He's also got multiple touchdown passes in 5 out of 7 games. And he runs a little bit too, maybe enough for an extra point or 2 on average. He gets a Colts team this week that's bottom 10 in points allowed to QB per game, as well as in red zone points per game. The Colts don't really get many picks. They don't get a whole lot of pressure. They're bottom 10 in blitzes, and they've allowed the 5th most total yards. They're also very generous against wide receivers, especially on the outside. Now that we have Joe Flacco in there, I think it's going to be a more competitive game. We've seen the line, or the spread come down since that was announced. This week, I think Sam Darnold, honestly, is a really high floor play. I think he's going to get you 20 points, likely more. I think he's a rock solid QB1 this week.
Yeah, I think he's good for 2 touchdowns and 3 bills. So the Colts sucky, for sure. Bisco, hey man, welcome back to the show. Sutton, Myers, or Tillman this week? It's an easy one for me. I'm going Sutton. Had a great game last week. Jesus,
against the Panthers.
Against but who do they play this week?
Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore. That actually Tillman, torched last week. And I think Cleveland plays the Chargers, so I don't really love that matchup for them. I didn't really even consider Myers. I'm going with Sutton.
Yeah, I think Tillman's got a pretty tough matchup. I think he's got the higher ceiling this week. I think Sutton is going to have the higher floor. We do want to remember, though, that Baltimore has had some injuries there in their defensive backfield, and now we've got some dudes who are starting to get healthy, who are starting to practice now. So it's something that bears watching. Myers, not really a consideration for me. If I feel like I'm the favorite in this matchup this week, I'm going with Sutton. If I think, all right, maybe I need a few more things to swing my way in order to win, I'm going with Tillman.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, Dubo's got it. Smash them likes, everybody. Appreciate that. Again, here every Tuesday, Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern and 12 p.m. Eastern on Sundays. Epic fail in PPR. Devonta Adams or Dell? Close in what the experts say, but not excited for either. I'm not either. It's tough.
I'm going with Devonta Adams. I think
eventually it's got to break through, right?
Well, I mean, there's that, but also like he's still getting targets. I would not be shocked if he ended today with 9 or 10 targets. Can we say the same thing about Tank Dell?
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't think so. I'm down on Dell this week.
And Bisco, so Sutton over Cooper? I think so. Cooper's somebody we're going to be talking about here towards the end of the show.
Hint, hint.
And do we like Darnold over Burrow? Dubo wants to know.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I do.
T. Higgins, his status is still up in the air. And, we saw last week him missing from the lineup really has a big impact on that offense. Darnold, now that, we know that Jordan Addison's going to be sticking around there in Minnesota, and that little trade rumor to New England was a hoax.
Yeah.
Darnold over Burrow for sure.
Kelsey's in the chat. You replace Maddie. Yep. He's Ric Flair today for Halloween. And I would have been somebody, but he didn't tell me.
With Lady Gaga.
She thinks that's Lady Gaga.
Oh, shit.
Love it. Love it. Yep. That's your nickname from now on. Lady Gaga. Anyway, next up.
Yes. Speaking of that Vikings Colts game, on the other side, you've got Joe Flacco in there, and that really elevates everybody, including Josh Downs. And Kyle, I know you're optimistic for him this week.
Yeah, I've very optimistic for him this week. I think he's we even talked on the phone, or we expect a huge game from this guy. And earlier this season, when Flacco was under center, he burst back onto the fantasy scene, racking up 15 points in 3 straight games. And then AR came back, and it was kind of rough, even though he was 4 of 9. For 109 yards and a tutty and 13 rushing yards with AR. It still didn't look, overall that great. He did finish as wide receiver 6, though. Among the 43 receivers with 40-plus targets, Downs is pretty good. Number 1 in route participation field. Dude is on the field for most passing plays, critical to fantasy. His PFF receiving grade they gave him, 9th best. He's tied in 10th for yards after the catch per reception. It's pretty good. 10th in yards per route run, 13th in the percentage of the targets he's caught. Pretty good as well. And he's wide receiver 27 on the year. I think that's pretty good considering the QB issues in Indianapolis. But now that won't even matter, as Matt said. Colts announced this week Flacco's coming back for this week's game against Minnesota, and I'm pretty hyped up about this matchup. Minnesota allows the most points per game in PPR to wide receivers, 46.1 points. And, I think Downs and Pittman are going to get a lot of that. And they also allow the most points per game to wide receivers in the red zone. Dubo, your defense got to be playing better there, bud. They've allowed 10 touchdowns to wide receivers and 5, count them, 500-yard receiving games, and have allowed the 3rd most receiving yards on the season at over 1,400 yards. With that being the case, you fire Downs up. He's a low-end wide receiver 1 for me this week.
I agree wholeheartedly. He's been so good with Joe Flacco in there.
Yep.
We got Vizzle in the chat.
Vizzle.
With a question. Pop Douglas or Dontavian Wicks?
Give me Pop. Wicks is just so far down the pecking order.
So do you feel the same way if Brissett is starting instead of Drake May?
I do not. I feel opposite.
You'd go with Wicks then?
Then I probably would go with Wicks.
Yep. That's my answer too.
Yep.
If Drake May is in, go with Pop. If not, Dontavian Wicks.
Let's see. We got any other stuff here?
Yes.
Who are you supposed to be, Matt? Why don't you tell her?
am.
No, not in that voice.
I'm the nature boy, Ric Flair, the real world's champion. You see the championship belt there over my shoulder. It's so big and so heavy and made out of solid gold, I can't hold on to it for very long.
Yep. And yeah, I just dressed up like a Tigers fan with my Mario Kart shirt on. Dubo, this is a get right game for the Vikings. Lions threw us off for a bit, and LA is good. I mean, that's what you got to tell yourself, man.
First place Lions.
Yep. And yes, we did see the Dodgers won, thankfully, because
that was a hell of a game.
Because Garrett Cole's like, go to first base and cover it. What? Why should I do that? What a moron. All right, next up, we got Chuba Hubbard. Chuba Hubbard gets a ton of volume and has a matchup this weekend versus the Saints, who allow 5.2 yards per attempt to running backs, third worst in the league. Matt, are you a little worried, though, that when Bryce Young starts, it hinders Chuba's ceiling a bit?
It does to a degree, but I'm more optimistic in just the kind of the shittiness of the Saints defense. And look, full disclosure, first game of the season, Chuba didn't do shit in their first game, week 1. The Saints are allowing the 7th most points per game to running backs. They're a little bit better in the red zone, but not much. They also give up 4 for 38 through the air. They've given up the 4th most rushing yards overall. The 5.2 yards per carry that you mentioned is the 2nd worst, only behind the Giants. Their 10 touchdowns allowed is tied for the 4th most, and 10 runs of 20 or more yards is the 2nd most. Now on to Chuba. 593 rushing yards is 5th in the league, and among running backs with 100 or more rush attempts, his 5 flat yards per carry is the 4th highest. He's 6th at the position with a robust 129 yards over expected, and his 402 yards after contact has him tied with Kyron Williams for 9th. He's good coming out of the backfield. His 26 targets is 11th, and he's caught 24 of them for 108 yards, and that really reduces the risk of him getting scripted out of this game. 20% of his targets have come in the red zone. He and Jahmyr Gibbs are tied for 8th with 5. He excels at finding a way to get positive yards as well. His 7 tackles for loss is the fewest among running backs with 100 carries. Outside the week 1 game, he's the RB12 in points per game at 16.4. He has just 1 game below 10 points. Carr is back this week and Young is starting. I'm still expecting a high-end running back 2 performance out of him. I think he's going to be able to get some work done on the ground, especially early in the game. I don't think the Saints are just going to come out and blow them out right from the start. And even if things do start to get a little bit out of hand, he's going to be there for those easy receptions.
Yeah, for sure. I think I read too, the Saints have allowed a rushing touchdown the last 4 weeks. 4 weeks in a row. So
yeah, that's not great.
No, it is not. We got Blue Jays. What up, man? Pick a flex. Hubbard, Myers, Coleman, or Bigsby. Keon? Or Hubbard?
Yeah.
PPR Blue Jays? I can't remember.
Coleman, I like.
I like a lot.
For whatever reason, though, it seems like Miami can never do shit against Buffalo. I'm not saying that's going to happen this time. It's just something that kind of sticks out to me. Buffalo always handles the Dogs, at least here over the past couple of years. Tank Bigsby, like, I get the appeal in that. And that's irrelevant of Etienne coming back, right? Yeah. Because whether it's been Dearness Johnson or Etienne, Bigsby's role really has not changed.
Yeah.
He did get a little bit more involved in the pass game this past week, but I really don't like him going up against that Eagles defense. Damn. I'm going to say Chuba, just volume based.
I like it too. Smitty, Welcome to the show. Ramondre or Chase Brown this week? Who the Patriots got? The Titans.
The Titans in Tennessee.
They're in the middle of the pack in points allowed. Cincinnati. Ooh, you can run on the Raiders.
You can. And if you come at it from strictly a volume standpoint, you would lean Ramondre, but this one I'm liking Chase Brown. I think that that Patriots-Titans game is going to be a rock fight.
Yeah. Yep. And you saw this last weekend, Zach Moss played second fiddle to Chase Brown. I like that as well.
He has taken over that backfield.
He sure has. Suave, JP, can you rank these for rest of season? Tyreek, DK, McLaurin, and Nico Collins. He's currently got ARSB, DK, and McLaurin. Trying to upgrade DK or McLaurin to Tyreek or Nico. Okay. What you think?
I'm going to go Tyreek, Nico, DK, McLaurin.
That's exactly what I was going to do. Yep. Part of me wants to maybe go McLaurin third and DK fourth, but I just can't do it.
Yeah. I mean, those two, DK and McLaurin, are really, really close. As far as wide receiver, there is no one with the upside that Tyreek has. And Nico he's missed 3 and 3/4 of a game, and he's still in the top 10 in receiving yards.
Yeah.
And the Texans need him now more than ever with Stephon Diggs being out for the rest of the season.
Smitty thinks Sam Darnold will turn back into Sam Darnold. You see a little bit of that, but we'll see. He's still got a big arm, and he's got Justin Jefferson.
He's got Justin Jefferson. He's got the most offensive talent around him than he's had at any point in his career. You know, when he was starting, he was with a shitty Jets team, and then he went to a shitty Panthers team. He backed up in San Francisco. Now losing Darashaw, that's going to hurt. And they brought in, who was it, Cam Robinson to try and fill that. We'll see how well that works out, but they had to do something. As long as he just doesn't go full idiot, like really, they don't need him to go out there and win games. They need him not to lose it. He's, a tier above a game manager right now.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. What do we got in here? Bisco trying to sort through the questions here. Sutton versus DJ Moore this week and rest of season. Both are on waivers. Thinking of dropping Bigsby or Hunter Henry. Ew.
I don't know that I'd drop Bigsby for either one of those. I mean, Jacksonville isn't a good team, but I don't know. I just have a hard time letting go of like good running back depth.
I agree.
Even though we've seen more injuries to wide receivers this year, it seems like historically it's been the running backs that have gotten banged up and hurt and missed time.
So would you drop Hunter Henry for?
Yeah, I would drop Hunter Henry for
either of those guys.
Yeah, probably.
I think so too.
Rest of season, I think I'd rather have DJ Moore versus Sutton. I see Chicago opening up the offense and throwing more than what's going to happen there in Denver.
Kelsey's watched the Ric Flair YouTube I sent her, so she needs you to howl. Or he did the woohoo earlier, but we can hear it again. Be all right.
Oh,
maybe they'll come unexpectedly here shortly. Just hang on. Emil, what's up, man? Welcome. Would you trade David Montgomery and Mike Evans for Saquon, or is that an overpay? I think that's a bit overpay. Will Mike Evans come back on time? How much are you going to get out of Mike Evans is a question.
Sure. I mean, right now, Saquon is a top 5 back. Monty's a back end running back 1, high end running back 2, whatever it is. Mike Evans ain't going to be back for another few weeks, right?
Yeah.
So you ain't getting shit out of him. And I think the increase in production that you'll get by going Saquon over Monty is more than going to make up for that. Yeah, I would make that trade. I'll take the Saquon side of that.
Okay. Good luck, Emil. Yes, Titus Welliver and Seth Rogen. I forgot about that until just now. Good stuff, Kels. Smitty, Tank Dell, or Khalil Shakir? I think do you still hate Tank Dell compared to that?
Yeah, I'm going Shakir over Dell this week. I'd rather have Tank Dell rest of season, though.
Yeah. And are you giving candy out after the show? I don't know.
So I have a bowl of candy out in front of my front door. Trick-or-treating is from 6 to 8 here. And either everybody's going to get some candy or one kid's getting all of it. And I'm fine with either outcome.
Yeah. Kudos to the one kid that does that. That'd be awesome.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the power move right there.
And Dana Dieto. Hey, guys, should I start Mixon and Brees tonight or sub one for J.K. Dobbins? I think Dobbins is we're leaning a no this week on him.
Yeah, I'm going with Mixon and I'm going with Brees.
Yeah.
I know it's not always the smartest thing in the world to have two running backs from the same game. But I think it's the right call for this week.
I agree. And I don't think it's going to be a lot of catch up. I think it'll be a close game, low scoring game, and both running backs would still be, in it.
Sure. I mean, I think they're both running back one options this week, and Dobbins not so much.
Dubo agrees with you. Same thing. He's got a bowl with a sign on the front step, and he's probably got a bowl inside with him as well.
I didn't even put a sign.
Oh, no?
No, it's just, here's a bowl of candy. You got an hour.
Right. Okay. Next up, our last start really fast here.
It is, and we're going to go to the tight end position, and with the injuries down there to the wide receivers in Tampa, the biggest beneficiary has been Cade Otton. Kyle, do you think that's going to continue?
Definitely. I mean, a month ago, we listed him, as a quality streamer, and that's pretty much what he was, but that's not the case anymore. He has now ascended to a must-start option. He was the number one tight end last week in PPR, saw 10 targets for the second straight game, caught a career high, 9 of them for 81 yards, touchdowns. He led the Bucs in receptions, receiving yards, and targets, and has been bumped into something of a wide receiver one role now with both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin injured. He's had 17 catches, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns over the last couple games. He already showed that, he's a very safe floor tight end, but there's clearly much more upside with so many targets now up for grabs. And it's safe to say that Baker Mayfield trusts him immensely, and Otton has now climbed to tight end 6 on the year. Among the 21 tight ends with 30-plus targets, so not very many. He ranks second with 3 touchdowns. He's 7th in receiving yards, 7th in yards after the catch, and tied for the most missed tackles forced. One of the reasons he gets a bunch of that yak. Matchup is versus the Chiefs this Monday night. And, KC's defense, while they're good overall, they have regularly been beaten by tight ends. They allow the most points to tight ends this season, 16.8 per game, including the second most receiving yards, plus 2 touchdowns, and allowed 1 tight end to hit the century mark. He's not going to be the best tight end on the field on Monday, with Kelsey being on the other side, but he should be treated like a weekly starter until further notice, or at least until, maybe Mike Evans comes back. But he's a must-start tight end for me in week 9.
Oh, he's a must-start going forward.
Yeah.
Even when Mike Evans does come back, he's still a top 2 option in that offense.
Heck, you never know what'll happen with one of them other guys, McMillan or Sterling Shepard. Maybe they do something, but I don't think they will. Any questions?
Yep. Smitty's got a question. He traded Flowers for Monty and dropped Javonte Williams to open up a roster spot. Should he have kept him?
Probably. It's running back depth's the thing, man. And yeah, you might kick yourself in the butt here shortly and go, shit. Is it the worst thing? No. But me personally, I like as much RB depth as I can get.
Sure.
And that offense seems to be getting better there in Denver as the year goes on.
It is. I will add, though, that while the running back depth is nice to have and it's important, that's a 3-headed backfield with Audric Estime and Jaleel McLaughlin. Sure. And it's not like he's getting 65% of the carries. You've also got Bo Nix, who is fond of doing some running himself. So I understand the logic in doing it. Do I think it's an awful move? No. Do I think it's, a big brain move? No, not really. It's fine. You can justify it.
Sure. Where are we at here? All right. We just talked about or mentioned J.K. Dobbins a moment ago. He's been one of the top values in fantasy football this season so far, but will likely struggle this weekend versus the Browns. Not to mention, opponents are starting to force the Chargers. You've seen it the last couple of weeks. They've thrown a lot more, and a lot of that has to do with them stacking the box to prevent the run. Matt, we have him as a sit, but it's a tough sit in my opinion.
It is, and and maybe we need to change the name of this from starts and sits to start and slow your roll.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Sure.
It's a very tough matchup at a Browns team that allows the sixth fewest points to running backs. They've not allowed a 100-yard rusher all season. Derrick Henry come the closest last week with 73 yards. They held Saquon to just 47 yards and under 3 yards a carry a couple weeks ago. They're mid-pack in terms of overall yardage. It allowed at just over 1,000 and yards per carry at 4.5, which is fine. But they've allowed the most runs of 20 or more yards. So, there's some good and some bad there. Dobbins, 3 of his last 5 have been under 10 PPR points, and he's not had an RB1 finish since week 2 and hasn't averaged 4 yards per carry or better since week 2. He's the running back 18 on the season in points per game at 15 in total points, a little over 105. He's got volume in his corner, though. He's had between 14 and 25 carries each of the last 6 games. Despite the lack of recent fantasy success, he's still 10th in rushing with a robust 4.8 yards per carry. And he's a bitch to bring down, too. He's 7th in yards after contact, and his 14 broken tackles is 2nd in the league, ahead of guys like Derrick Henry and David Montgomery. If you would have told me that coming into the season, I'd have thought, no way. I never really pictured Derrick Henry, J.K. Dobbins as that kind of runner, but he's proving that he is. He's doing some work in the pass game as well, averaging 3 for 20 over his last 4 games. I think he's a back-end RB2, running back 3, flex play, kind of somewhere in there this week, as opposed to the mid-range running back 2 that he's been over the past month and a half. Chances are you don't have a better option on your bench and you're going to start him, but don't be surprised if he only gives you 7 or 8 points this week.
Yeah, it's like I said, you got to start him somewhere in some leagues, and it's just not going to be a standout day for him. Let's see. Himothy, he's late. Saw the thumbnail. What about Olave? Completely random. I pretty much just look for stuff that'll look nice on the thumbnail. By the way, critiques about the thumbnail, stuff like that. I love that stuff. I take care of all the thumbnail stuff because Matt's not very artistic. Well, I'm not really either, but no, Olave is just a start on our list this week. We talked at the top of the show. Expect a big week from him with his quarterback returned. All
right.
Yeah.
Got DeJuan in here. He's having a good time. Appreciate you coming through, brother. Appreciate you coming through. We got another running back that I think is more of a sit than J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah.
This dude has kind of been dogged by the fantasy industry last year and into this season just because he's so inefficient and borderline one-dimensional. Kyle, talk to us about Rachaad White.
Yeah, it's not often you sit a running back who's scored 45 points in fantasy and PPR the last couple of weeks, but this is one of those occasions. Despite producing at a high level, he saw just a snap share of 56% or lower in the last 2 games. He's had 11 total touches last week. He did, save his fantasy day by falling into the end zone, but he also saw 3 fewer carries than his teammate Bucky Irvin. And Irvin also is starting to eat into White's receiving work last week, seeing 7 targets. Out of the 35 running backs that have had 60 or more rush attempts, White ranks shittily. 28th in PFF rush grade. He's tied for 30th in yards per attempt at just 3.8 a carry. He's 33rd in rushing yards with 256. His rush EPA is in the bottom 10. It's at -15. It's shit. And he's the only one of those 35 running backs without a rushing touchdown. It's called a receiving one, just no rushing touchdown. So I'm of the opinion that according to the eye test, Bucky Irving's the better back in Tampa Bay, period. There'll be weeks when both can coexist from a fantasy standpoint, but I don't expect that to happen this week against the Chiefs. They are the best in points per game allowed to running backs. They're the second best in points allowed to running backs in the red zone, and they're the best in yards per carry allowed to running backs at 3 flat. Look somewhere else if you have White. Period.
Yeah. He's somebody who's already pretty inefficient and has shown over the past year and a half that he's not really going to break a tackle. So,
yep. Agreed. What do we got here in the chat? Anything? Y'all doubted my Olave, Ober, Debo pick. Yeah, I suppose we did.
Olave had a game.
He did. Yeah.
Props to you, brother. You called it.
Otton or Laporta. I like Otton this week. We just talked about him a moment ago. He's one of our starts. He's going to see all the targets there really in Tampa Bay, or a damn great deal of them, and so many mouths to feed there in Detroit. It's Otton for me. Halloween movie. What's everyone putting on tonight? Yeah, there you go. There's our poll question. Favorite Halloween
forgot
movie.
all about it.
Poll. Put it in the chat there. Halloween movies. Oh shit.
I like Halloween, like the actual Michael Myers Halloween,
Sure.
And I think the score or the music from it just makes it like that much spookier.
Heck
Generally, I'm not a big horror movie watcher. Like,
Me
they're
either.
cool, but I also have a hard time suspending my disbelief. Like when the cliches come out, like, oh, I'm being chased by a murderer and I'm a hot chick, I should run away in the woods with my fucking heels on.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
come on.
Yeah, I'm not much of a horror movie either. I'd rather just watch something. I can't even think of anything that's even Halloweenish except for Hocus Pocus, and I'm not going to watch that anymore because my kids are no longer children, and I don't have to do that. But Himothy's watching Batman. Good stuff. And what do we got here? Kelsey, Himothy, I think it starts on Halloween in the movie. Yep. What do we got next? Sits now, right?
Yeah.
That's all our starts. We're going to do 5 sits. First one is.
How about the third one? Because Dobbins was the first one and Rachaad White was the second.
Yeah. Shit. I apparently lost about the last 10 minutes. Totally gone.
Sorry, folks. We get high on our own supply from time to time, kind of like when I said, CD ain't going to do shit. And then he gets like 13 for 507 touchdowns. And I look like a moron.
Yeah.
But I'll own up to it.
So Deontay Johnson got traded to the Ravens.
Those were the days.
Yeah, yeah, they were. Jesus, I can't even remember him. I was on every drug under the sun. So Zay Flowers, the wide receiver there in Baltimore, his fantasy value is taking a hit. And what does he get rewarded with, Matt? A freaking horrible matchup with the Denver Broncos.
That's it. This cat is being shadowed by Patrick Surtain. I feel bad for him. Like, I really do. This season, Surtain has been targeted 17 times. Woo! 12 receptions. Woo! 116 yards. Woo! 3 interceptions. Woo! 69.4 rating when targeted. Woo! Woo! He's also got 5 inches and 27 pounds on Flowers. Now, 5 inches and 27 pounds, that's quite like this was made of steel or something. Anyways, Broncos, as a team, allow the 9th most receptions, but the 9th fewest yards. Ninth most receptions, 9th fewest yards. That's because they're 9. See, it's a whole lot of 9s and shit.
Well, you're too busy wowing. You forgot where you're at, probably.
I know where I'm at. Their 9 yards per reception is the best in the NFL. Their 8 receiving touchdowns allowed is tied for the 7th fewest. 16 receptions of 20 or more yards, the 2nd fewest. Now, Zay Flowers, he's having a pretty good year. There's some people, myself included, that were pretty optimistic about him coming into the season. His 41 receptions has him tied with Justin Jefferson and the sun god, Amon-Ra St. Brown. 527 yards is also 10th. His 61 targets is tied for 9th with DK, 27% target share, tied for 6th. 24 receptions of 10 or more yards is tied for 2nd, but he's hardly used in the red zone. He has just 3 red zone targets, tied for 64th with guys like Lil Jordan Humphrey, Cavante Turpin, and Jalen Coker, and has found the end zone just once back in week 2. That's not exactly the kind of company you want to keep. 254 yards after the catch, though, 6th among wide receivers. He's like the anti-DeAndre Hopkins. He's been a boomer bust, mid-range wide receiver 2 all season. He's got 3 games at 5.2 points or below, and he's got 4 of them over 18 points. I think this week he's a low-end wide receiver 3 or a flex play and really no better than that, unless he gets lucky.
Yeah, I definitely sit him. I mean, you need to find a receiver that is facing a weaker pass defense. I don't like it. Don't love it. I did not see. I put Beetlejuice as I finally thought of one that I like for Halloween movies. Always loved that since I was a kid. Watching it, I remember actually watching it so many times on the VHS tape that the tape broke. So a lot of you might not know what the fuck I'm talking about right now, and I didn't see the new one yet. As soon as it comes out, I'm not a big movie theater guy. From times in my past.
Cut a hole in the bottom of the popcorn.
No. This is back in my pest control days where
all right, never mind.
I treated too many movie theaters for bed bugs, and I've never been to a movie theater since.
Bed bugs at a movie theater?
Oh yeah, man. They'll stick on your clothes. Women's
Was it like a porn theater? Did they have beds there?
No, it was real freaking. The person who brought them in probably had them horribly bad.
We got questions in the chat. Jesse's tired of hearing our shit. 12-man league. This guy wants A.J. Brown. What do you think of A.J. Brown and Tyrone Tracy for Aaron Jones and Tank Dell? Absolutely not.
No, I keep an A.J. Brown. He's the best player in that group.
He is, and Aaron Jones is fine for a running back. Tyrone Tracy, though, looks the way he's looked on that Giants team, what he's been able to do. No, I want to hang on to him. Tank Dell, rest of season. Sure, I like him with Stephon Diggs gone. Like, we're going to see more of what we saw last year, I think. But still, no, that's.
Yeah. And you look at Tank Dell's the Houston's schedule through week 17, and it's definitely not favorable for wide receivers. A lot of teams that are in the top 10 that they're facing, a couple that are in the bottom 10, but I agree. I'm keeping AJ Brown.
Good luck, Jesse. Appreciate you stopping by.
Heck yeah. And if you haven't, this is my time to grovel here. Give us a like, give us a subscribe here every Tuesday, every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Eastern on Sundays for our last minute show. We call it Tinker Time. You know, you got that last hour where you can tinker with your lineup, sometimes for the good, sometimes to your detriment.
Sometimes shit happens. Tinkering's good till it ain't.
Yep. Epic fail. McLaurin easily over Adams this week. I don't know about easily, but
yeah, I think so. I mean, until I'm shown otherwise, I view Adams as a wide receiver 2. I think McLaurin is a back end wide receiver 1. I think they're close, but I like McLaurin.
Yeah. Tyler Sperry, welcome back, man. Dell, Reed, or Coleman? Pick one. Dell, we're definitely out of. So we're just between Jaden Reed and Coleman. I think Reed.
Yeah, I think so too. That Detroit secondary has played better. Their safeties are better than their corners, but there's still some room for improvement there. Yeah. There's an off chance that, you know, that Bills Dolphins game kind of shoots out. It's got a halfway decent total.
49.
You know, but that total in the Detroit game, I think is going to be relatively close to that, you know, within a point or two. Where is it at? 48.5. Yeah. Reed plays a more prominent role in the offense, though, for Green Bay than Coleman does. And we're only going to see Amari Cooper get more and more incorporated into the offense as he gets more comfortable and builds chemistry with Josh Allen.
Yeah. And depending on, you know, where Coleman lines up, he could see a big dose of Jalen Ramsey too. So he's still damn good, even though he's getting older. Let's see. Where are we at here? Timothy, sorry. Would you start at a second flex? I love leagues with two flexes. Dobbins, Wandale, Laporta, or Noah Brown. I think this is where is this where you're forced to maybe start Dobbins? You like him out of all those? Yeah.
Yep.
I do.
Wandale, like, you love the targets, you love the receptions, but he's averaging like 6 yards a reception.
Yeah.
So if you get me 6 for 36, like, awesome, but there's no upside.
No. And the targets have tapered off a bit the last couple of weeks for Juan.
It has.
I'm gonna say Juan don't this week.
Look at you being clever.
Appreciate the input. Was thinking of doing it. Jesse says, thanks for stopping by, giving us some stuff. That's it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss us, man.
That's it.
Tyler Sperry, Dell versus Sauce. Abso-freaking-lutely not.
Bingo.
Kelsey starts every Sunday morning with Tinkle Time. Well, doesn't everybody?
Yeah.
I mean, a piss and a shit for me.
Hoping you don't get Poseidon's kiss.
You're right. Yeah, no kidding. AT, what's up? Welcome to the show. Need somebody for his flex. Dell, Chubb, Higgins, Coleman, Singletary. He doesn't like any of the matchups.
Well, the Dell matchup sucks. T. Higgins, we don't even know if he's going to play. With Devin Singletary, there's still a chance that Tyrone Tracy can clear concussion protocol and play this Sunday. If he does, that's bad news for Singletary. So to me, it's down to Nick Chubb and Keon Coleman. Coleman, we talked about him on Tuesday as a waiver target, and how Amari Cooper's arrival has kind of opened things up for him. And also we're about halfway through the season. He's got a half season under his belt, and he's starting to figure some things out. Chubb, he comes back. I understand the Chargers, their defense has been pretty solid this year. Let me see what they are against running backs real quick. In a PPR, they are the third best. So that's kind of a tougher matchup. But then you got to think, all right, well, Jameis opens things up too.
Yes. Yep. More running area for Chubb. I mean, he didn't look very efficient last week, his first game back. It's probably going to take some time. The guy's got freaking everything replaced in his knee again. Didn't he hurt the other knee a couple of years ago? ACL.
He hurt it. He hurt one in college, I think.
Yeah, college. That's what I'm talking about.
So it comes down to Coleman or Chubb. What do you think, buddy?
Well, at standard league, PPR might change my mind. If it's standard, maybe I go with Chubb. If it's PPR, maybe I go Coleman. He looked good. He looks real damn like Josh Allen really trusts him.
Yes, he does. I'll agree with that. In standard, I'll go Chubb. Half or full PPR, I think Coleman is the call.
Favorite sauce, everyone? Kelsey wants to know. I like the Polynesian sauce from Chick-fil-A a lot. I really do like that. Hell, I like the Chick-fil-A sauce too. But
oh my goodness, queso is usually a must. Absolutely not.
No,
absolutely not. Give me some. I don't even know what the hell favorite sauce.
Next,
that's a good one. Yeah. What the hell are we talking about next? Oh, $36 Amari Cooper. We just got done talking about Keon Coleman, his brand new teammate, Amari Cooper. He's been playing about half a snaps so far. 51%, I think, was the number that I saw. Don't quote me on that.
That's
point is, he's not fully integrated yet.
No, he's not. It's been kind of mixed results there. He had that touchdown week 7, but last week was you just saw 2 targets, caught 1 for 3 yards. Did see the snap count increase, but ran 3 routes less than Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir. So the problem is Coleman and Shakir, they played more snaps, and more importantly, they saw more targets than Cooper. And as Matt mentioned, a few minutes ago, it's going to take a minute there to get him integrated. But as every week goes by, I think you will see more and more of Amari Cooper. This week, no, don't like him. He's wide receiver 35 on the year in PPR, so just makes the cutoff there at the wide receiver 3 level. We're hoping a little bit more from him. maybe high-end wide receiver 3, and the team change should help. So he's seen 50 targets. So have 21 other wide receivers. He ranks second to last in PFF receiving grade, last in receiving yards, last in percentage of the targets it caught, 15th in yards per reception at just 11 flat. I think going forward, Josh Allen's going to continue to do everything in his power to get him the ball. But this week's opponent, the Dolphins, will not make it easy. They're the third stingiest defense in the league against opposing wide receivers, giving up just 25 points to the position, 4 total touchdowns, and the 5th fewest receiving yards. And Cooper lines up about 80% of the time on the outside. Could see a lot of Jalen Ramsey, depending on where he lines up in the field. A lot of times Ramsey doesn't travel. He just stays on one side of the field. So I'd sit Cooper this week. I'd find a much more consistent option at the position with a much better matchup and start them instead. If you are forced to start Amari Cooper, he did suffer a wrist injury last week. He was limited yesterday and today. So if you are forced to start him, make sure he's playing first.
Yeah, long term, I mean, that's a great addition for that team. There was really a big hole that was left there with Stephon Diggs's departure and just the amount of attention he would draw from opposing defenses. And they tried to, hold it together with duct tape and spit and everything else with, Curtis Samuel and Khalil Shakir and whoever that other dickhead is there that, oh yeah, Keon Coleman, duh. Anyways, it just didn't work. This is a great get for them. It improves the offense by quite a bit. Just, let's wait for him to show it first.
Right. Peanut sauce, Dubo says, or hoisin sauce. Dude, I love hoisin sauce is the barbecue sauce of Asian. I love that stuff. And Taco Bell hot sauce is underrated.
Yep.
I agree.
I've got a couple bottles of it here.
Cooper Lauren, welcome back to the show. He wants to know, tank Dell or do I risk it all and wait on the BTJ injury? Would have Dobbs, Mostert, or Judy as a backup if BTJ can't go. I like Dobbs this week against the Lions.
Yep, that's a good matchup. Mostert has a good matchup. The Bills have been soft against running backs.
Yeah.
I'm waiting. I'm not starting Tank Dell.
No.
It's just this is a terrible matchup for him. This is a game by the Texans that's going to be played on the ground. I think if they're smart, just because their wide receiver core is hit. So yeah, I'm holding out. BTJ doesn't go. I'm gonna run Romeo out there.
Definitely. All right, one more, a tight end. Oh, let me get this banner off wherever I'm at here. It may seem crazy to bench Tucker Kraft, the tight end 5 on the season in PPR, but he hasn't exceeded 3 receptions since week 5, and he faces the Lions this weekend, a defense that has held opposing tight ends in check. Matt, he's just 2 touchdown dependent to start this week, right?
I mean, it's not even that. This matchup against the Detroit defense is really tough, and it almost feels weird saying that, right? The Lions allow the second fewest points per game to tight ends. They're essentially allowing 3 for 30. Overall, 39 targets, 25 receptions, 210 yards, and just a single touchdown. And this ain't against scrubs. Against Cade Otton, no catches on 2 targets. Trey McBride, 3 for 25 on 6 targets. Noah Fant, 2 for 26 on 2 targets. Jake Ferguson, 3 for 11 on 4 targets. Chiga Okonkwo, just this past week, 2 for 14 on 5 targets. The only tight end to find the end zone was former Michigan man A.J. Barner back in week 4. However, Tucker, I mean, overall, he's breaking out in his second year. He's 14 yards from surpassing last season's total and already has 3 more touchdowns. From week 4 onward, he's been the tight end 4, averaging 14.9 points per game. In that span, he's got 25 targets, 18 grabs for 265 and 5 touchdowns. On the season, his 24 receptions is tied for 19th, but he's 8th in yards with 335. He's second in yards after catch with 244 and far and away leads tight ends with 133 yards after contact. And he's doing all that while being 19th at the position with a 14.1% target share, just behind Dalton Schultz and ahead of Tyler Conklin. His scoring's also helped out by the fact that he's 6th at the position with 7 red zone targets, but he's also tied with Dalton Kincaid and Jonnu Smith for the most drops with 4. Obviously, we like him better with Jordan Love at QB, and it's trending in that direction that he's going to play. Still, given the matchup, I think he's a high-end tight end too this week instead of the top 5-ish option that he's been over the past month and change.
Yeah, and if Love plays and you're forced to start Kraft, I don't. It's not horrible, but if Willis starts, I definitely don't like Kraft at all. He finished with 3 and 4 points in those 2 games with Willis, so just didn't look his way very much. So.
Yeah, I've got him in a league, and I'm going to hashtag run his ass out there.
Yep.
So, do what I got to do.
Maddie is giving out cheese sticks in his house. Now, like mozzarella sticks or like string cheese? Because I think you eat both of those, don't you? Yeah.
They're the same thing. String cheese is mozzarella cheese.
Yeah.
Smoke another bowl.
I've seen you eat mozzarella.
Yes, I like mozzarella cheese because it's like flavorless. It's just a texture in my mouth. Do I eat Cheez-Its? Yes.
Yeah, he eats
I
Doritos.
do eat Cheez-Its. Spicy nacho Doritos.
Fake powdered cheese, not real.
Yeah, like cheese. I'll get a box of, Kraft macaroni and cheese. It has to be the powdered cheese, though, and I'll make that. But I add more milk and butter than it says to. So it's not really mac and cheese. It's macaroni and like a pale yellow sauce.
Plus, it does not taste the same anymore, because they took out a bunch of, I don't know, coloring agents or something and used something different. And Kraft mac and cheese from about a year ago does not taste the fucking same.
Yes. Or for our Canadian friends, Kraft dinner.
That's true. I think doesn't it say Kraft dinner? It used to say Kraft dinner, isn't it?
I don't know. That's what they call it in Canada.
Blue Jays.
Can't go to Canada all that often, though. End up with maple fever looking for Canadian women.
Yeah. Going down to the Tim Hortons and get yourself a donut. That didn't really sound very Canadian. Anyway, all right. We're done, right?
We are. Kelsey, she likes the cooking talk. I used to have a cooking YouTube channel that will never be revealed because there's only like 4 videos on there, and they weren't the greatest, but the recipes themselves are good.
Yeah, you were gung-ho there for a minute.
Yeah, it was cool. It was fun. It was interesting, but it's, a thing of the past.
For sure. I just like to cook at home. I'm a home chef. Did gumbo, homemade gumbo this past weekend. Share the recipe with Matt. He's going to make it.
Yep, I'm going to give it a shot.
Yubo,
I will not reveal that.
I can't wait for him to.
Or how about this?
Call me in a panic. My gumbo doesn't taste good.
I'll just go to Yats.
And he's not even in his cooking channel, Matt's cooking channel. He's not even on camera. So
yeah, it's
not like Kelsey's,
narrated with
not like Kelsey's
words,
there,
but
like
not
she does
speaking.
it where she's in her kitchen and stuff. Matt's just behind the scenes.
Yes. Anyways, Lions win the Super Bowl. We'll have a watch party of it. We'll watch all 4 or 5 videos.
There we go. That'll be great. So, all right, we're going to get out of here. Happy Halloween everywhere. Everybody, give us a like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. And of course, we will be back 12 noon Eastern for Tinker Time, taking all your questions this Sunday. Everybody's got last minute questions as well. So stay stoned, everyone. Eat a bunch of candy, puke,